Hey, good evening, everybody. This is A.L. Johnson with Elevating Men. We're back with another great conversation. Listen, as you come in, do us a favor. I want you to like or heart so we know that the sound is working okay and you guys are hearing this because this is a very important message. Also, make sure that you share this with your network because this conversation is extremely important. I believe that it'll help a lot of people. And so we want this to reach as many people as humanly possible. Um, Before we get into the conversation, like I said, we're going to wait for a few people to get in, but we do have a couple very important announcements. And so I want you to grab your calendar, grab a pen, a pad, use your phone, whatever you need to do. But I want to make sure that you mark down these dates. So the first one, this Saturday, March 11th, we have the Man Cave Prayer Breakfast. And so this is the flyer for that. It's going to be at the Oasis Church under Pastor Michael Brooks. And again, that's this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. It is a wonderful event, men coming together and healing. That's really what it's all about. There is a breakfast served at 9 a.m. sharp. And so be there. It is 100% free. And so you can leave your wallet at home. After the breakfast, we will have a very lively conversation about really moving forward in life. And we're going to be presenting a formula that we believe can help with that. To RSVP, you can come to the Elevating Men page on Facebook. You can inbox us and let us know you'll be there. We just want to make sure that we have enough food for everyone in attendance. You can also reach out to Lauren, the Vice President of Elevating Men, as well as Pastor Brooks, and they will go ahead and put your name on the list. Outside of that, we do have another special announcement. Our brother, Mike Patton, has an announcement. He has something coming up. And so, Brother Patton, I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor for a second and go ahead and make that announcement.
Put that on your notes. Put that on your notes. April 2nd of next month at 9:45, we are starting our church, Love and Unity Christian Fellowship Church. That would be at 7405 the Paseo, 9:45. There's going to be an awesome service. We got preaching, we got praise and worship. We're going to just encompass our whole community with the living word of God. Everybody is invited. And there's no person that is great, no person that is low. Come as you are. Just come ready now to praise and give God some worship, giving Him praise. We expect to see you there. It's tell your mother, tell your father, tell your person up the street. I don't care who they are, whosoever will let them come. We look forward to seeing you because we know faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. So we look forward to seeing you. That's April 2nd. That's on Palm Sunday, getting ready for Resurrection Month. And we sure hope to see you there. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. So make sure you get that on your calendars. Again, that is April 2nd. That's the opening of Brother Patton's new church. I'll definitely be there in attendance, and I hope that you are as well. For those of you that are just tuning in, I see some people coming into the live stream. I first want to show my appreciation. Thank you for coming in tonight. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your attendance. Do us a favor and give us a like or a heart so that we know you hear everything okay before we jump into this conversation. And so, if you read the title, what we're talking about is the influences that our young men are bombarded with on a daily basis. They have it tough. They have it tough. They have it tougher than we ever did. When it comes to negative influences, they've always existed. But if we're completely honest with ourselves, the amount of repetition, the accessibility, the frequency that our young men are hit with these messages is at a completely different rate than we ever were. And so that means they have to be even better equipped to make sure that they can combat those forces. Lauren, before we get too deep into the conversation, there was something that was kind of on your mind relating to Ja Morant. And in our private chat group, you said that it was bothering you. It was bothering you a little bit. And so I'd like to open the discussion with your thoughts on that.
Yeah, nah, appreciate it. So for those of you that do not know, Ja Morant is a NBA basketball star, and recently he's made some public news because after a loss, he went out to the club with some friends and went live on Instagram and was basically toting a gun, which number one is against the collective bargaining agreement in the NBA, but also it's just a bad look for him in general. And so what has happened to this point as he has been suspended by the team. The league is investigating not only this case, but another case that previously he was involved in that involved a gun. And so his apology, too, was very, very eye opening, to say the least. It led me to believe that this young man is unprotected. You know, he is the leader of his circle, and he doesn't have the right people in his corner to let him know when maybe he may be a little bit out of pocket. And so now we fast forward to where we are now, and you know, I firmly believe that as men, as fathers, we are to be our children's parents, not their friends. We can build a friendly relationship for sure, but to make it a friendship without having the fatherhood title, the fatherhood backing behind it, is leading this young man down a path that he may not recover from. And the NBA is, like I said, he's currently under investigation. He is in a place where he is trying to seek help, which is good. It is good for him to seek help, but I am very, very concerned about his circle and those around him that have enabled and are very dependent on him uh, and his success in order for them to survive. So just know that as brothers, we're allowed to fail. We're allowed to make mistakes. We have to surround ourselves with people that are going to hold us accountable, people that are going to call us out when we may be falling off the path. We may have fallen off the path a little bit. Those are the people that we have to surround ourselves with, and we have to continue to lift each other so that eventually that is the norm, so that situations like this don't happen and he is not put in a situation where he is compromised.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's tough because I know that man is under a lot of pressure. Like when you're the one that kind of makes it out, and you know, as an NBA player, he's making millions of dollars. He has everyone on his shoulders, but at the same time, like you said, he obviously doesn't have good influences or a support system that taps him on the shoulder and says, "Hey, man, there's a lot riding on you, and you just can't be doing those things." Mike, you have something that you wanted to add?
Yeah, the whole point of accountability is true, and I'm glad you brought that up because here's a brother within the next 5 years has the potential of making $250,000, and he has to understand. And I say this to the men and boys to men out there watching this right now: when you reach that type of level of the NBA or the NFL or the National Baseball Association and all this, understand they are watching you. You have billion dollar industries, corporations. They know where you are. They know where you're going. They know where you're snorting. They know where you're sleeping. They know where you're residing. They know whatever you do, they have a cop or something on you. They have their eye on you because there's something now that's dealing with the collective bargaining agreement that you can and cannot do. They cannot and will not affect that billion dollar industry. So make sure that you understand that you are a glass house, man. You can't go out and do in and everything. You have to be accountable. And what I do like is the fact he did apologize, but his team is standing behind him. And yes, we need those fathers to stand behind their children, behind their sons, and behind their daughters when they get out to that type of situation. But understand, they are watching you. Once you get from college and out to college, and now you have these big corporations spending a lot of money on you, you have to understand they know what you are doing. I sure hope and pray this young man gets out of this situation.
I do as
Absolutely.
well. I do as well. You know, one thing that comes to mind for me is the word acceptance. We're all looking for acceptance, and a lot of times we feel like money in and of itself will create the acceptance that we need. But when you look at John Morant, this brother's making millions of dollars. He's one of the top players in the NBA. But for him to go on social media, you know, with a gun and you know just acting crazy, doing all the things he was doing, there's clearly some form of acceptance that he was looking for. There was an image that he wanted to portray, no matter what. And so to get into the meat and potatoes of the conversation, I always love to use an image that we can reflect on, and we used this image before, but this just depicts a young man. When I look into his eyes, it looks like he's in thought, trying to figure out his way. And he has all of these different influences around him. You see the red rag, you see the blue rag, you see the money, you see a gun to his head, you see a Bible, you see a bra representing women, you see basketball, you see a bottle of Hennessy. There are all of these things that our young men have to think about. And so, what we want to talk about today is a system that Elevating Men has created to help them kind of remember the things that they really should be thinking about. So when it comes to these different types of influences, they have a form of protection, based off of what they know. And so when Elevating Men was started, it was started at the end of 2020 after my father passed away. It was kind of a way for me to cope and connect with other men. But I found through conversation that a lot of men did not have any type of foundation. And what I mean by that is whether you have parents or not, sometimes it really comes to a point of like, what do you believe? What do you believe? And so what we did is we took the word swag, a word that everybody knows. Generally, when you say somebody has swag, it has to do with their style and the way they carry themselves, etc. But we turned it into an acronym. And so if you're watching this and if you're a part of any group, school, organization, or anything similar, we would like an opportunity to present this information to the youth. And so for us, what swag stands for is S, systems, W is for work ethic, A is for accountability, and G is for growth. And so in the conversation today, we're going to spend quite a bit of time on the letter S, which is systems. Now, when you hear systems, what comes to mind automatically is your routine or your schedule or how you go about your day. And yes, that is important, right? Because if you don't have a system for how you conduct yourself, you're not going anywhere. But what I really want to focus on today is a belief system. Belief system. And as we get into this, I want you to think about the children in your household, but I also want you to think about yourself as an adult because anything that can change your mindset for the positive is that's for everybody. That's for everybody. And so when we talk about belief systems, I liken it to a square. So if you've ever heard the term, stand on your square, right? A square to me represents boundaries, right? And so you have those edges of that square. This is to say that I'm not going to step outside of this. These are my boundaries. And so ask yourself, do you have any solid boundaries in your life? Does your child, have they already created their own boundaries? Now, the other thing is within that square, I say that that's where your principles, your morals, your values, what you stand on as a man, that's your square. And that's something that needs to be protected even with your life. Like you should reach a point where the people who are in your circle and come in contact with you understand that, hey, all I have to say is I'm on my square on this, right? And they should be able to know that he's not budging. He's not budging. And so let's talk a little bit about belief systems. Let's talk a little bit about helping young men find their square and what they need to be able to stand on it no matter what. And so I want to open this conversation. Andrew, this is something that we talk a little bit about belief systems. When I say those things that I just said, what first comes to mind for you?
So it's a couple of things. How about putting that picture back up, please?
All right.
So what first comes to mind to me is his age, and I'm looking at the boundaries of the rectangle. I'm looking at all the things inside the rectangle, and I'm noticing some things that are missing. I don't see his parents in the picture. I don't see any kind of positive influence. An actual person that has his back. I don't see that. I don't even see an actual person who's actually warding off some of those things, who sees, who has their eyes on him and looking at all those things coming at him and trying to ward them off with their life so that he can have a better life. I don't see that person. So whether it's a square or a circle, what I see is that person right there. He has nappy hair. He has big pink lips. He has a wide nose. He has a frame that's about 70 pounds where he can't protect himself or anybody outside of himself. And he has nobody else inside of that picture. So what he does have are people who are offering him something. Each of those hands are offering him something. So they're in his picture for whatever reason. They're giving him choice. Nobody else is giving him choice or a plan or an option out or a way through. I don't see that. I see him by himself. And that in itself is the first scary part.
Very good observation. Very good observation. Before we go any further, there's a few people in the comment section that I definitely want to shout out. First of all, we appreciate you tuning in and your support. Miss Latrice Tucker, let me tell you, this woman, Latrice Tucker, is one of the most supportive women that I know. And not just for elevating men. I see her on social media all the time, sharing different people's content. We appreciate you, Latrice. Thank you for tuning in. Mike Junk, what's going on, nephew? He's talking about John Morant, and so I want to read his comment. He said his pops is the problem. He went through so much as a kid because of his pops. His pop is his biggest supporter right now. His foundation is within his pops, and seeing how his pops got known. And so I believe what he's saying, at the end of the day, he has negative influences around him, and it starts with his father. James Drew, that's another family member. My family is here this evening. How you doing, cousin James? He said he has older support who's trying to guide him in the right direction, but he chose not to listen. His father was not his dad, but a partner, and that was the problem. Good discussion. That's exactly what Lauren alluded to. We have to be our children's parent and not their friend. We can have that relationship, but it's really important that we're actually leading and guiding them. Leading and guiding them, that's important. Latrice said, "Oh, thank you. You are very welcome. You are very welcome." All right, so Lorenzo Hughes, he was just actually on the show about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Very sharp brother, very intelligent. Thank you for tuning in. He said, how do you explain the anti-father laws that deny fathers access and the mothers to deny him access until his son or daughter is of legal age and is able to make the choice to have a relationship with him? If they have not been turned against him by the hatred of the mother, in turn denying him the image of strength and power, which he is trying to show with guns, the tool of weak males. There is a lot to unpack in what you just said there, a whole lot to unpack. What comes to mind for me first is you're absolutely right. If he doesn't have that image of strength and power as a young man, you are going to seek that outside of your home. And like you said, he's showing a gun. He has absolutely no reason to be doing that. At his level of income, I'm sure he has security, he has bodyguards, he has whatever. I believe that it's a point of acceptance. If he wasn't in any real danger, what is the reason for that? And so I heard a saying that talked about basketball players want to be rappers and rappers want to be basketball players. It's about image. It's all about image. Andrew, you had a comment?
I think I heard you say something like, he has money and, security is not really an issue with him. Is that what I think I heard you say?
I did.
So imagine after the game, he's walking to his car, or imagine he's driving just in the neighborhood, going to the grocery store. He has money. He has jewels. He has something that anyone starving can actually take to a pawn shop if they catch him. What's that word? Slipping?
Definitely. It's just my belief that him brandishing the gun in the way that he didn't have so much to do with like, hey, don't mess with me. I have protection in my gun. It was more portraying a specific image of, say a rapper or whatever. And it's really messed up because if you think about it, a lot of our young men are portraying that image. And I really feel the reason is, as human beings, we are looking for ways to become successful, whatever that may be, whatever success is to us. But for a young male, we are driven by a few key things. There's a saying that says the thing that you want the most is the thing that you're the weakest to, right? And so for an example, if the thing that you want the most is a woman, right, that woman can be your weakness. If the thing that you want the most is acceptance, then your desire for acceptance becomes your greatest weakness. And so when we have our young men and they're looking for, what is success to me? then they start looking at the world around them. And success can be symbolized in many different ways. For most young men, it's symbolized through money, so the club scene, money being thrown in the air, etc., fancy cars, pretty women, that image of the protector, or the big bad guy that has the gun. And so it's really my belief that a lot of times they emulate and copy those images because they believe that that's actually what success looks like. The problem is we don't have enough images of successful family men, right? Who have, they got the beautiful home, the beautiful wife, the kids, and we put that on a pedestal, and then that becomes the new norm. You have to think all through the 80s, late 80s, all through the 90s, early 2000s, the image of success that was like drilled into our head, because I remember as a young man, what was drilled into our head was money, cars, clothes, and women. Mike, you had a comment.
I was going back to that picture frame that you had, and what I saw was a young man that had no expression, but he had influences around him, and he did not know which way to turn. Can a person have? I mean, you take like Mike Tyson and take like this brother that we see here. You give him $55 million at 19 years old. How do you expect for him to now articulate and to put all that into an asset instead of becoming a liability? Can you be lonely? Can you be confused with all that noise around you, at that young of an age? And so I think sometimes it takes that quickening and that jarring to really wake a person up. I hate it's that way. I know it happened to me, but you can have all the money and the things in the world, but sometimes with all these things being thrown at you, you look at his face. He had no expression at all. He was like, "Hey, what do I do now?" And so hopefully this is going to be a wake up call for him. So who is he influenced by? I think the very part of this whole program you bringing out, my brother, is the fact that our parents, we have great influences on our children, and we cannot allow the influences outside of the home now captivate and pull that person down in another way that is not in the alignment of the way you want them to live or the way they should live.
I appreciate that, and that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. LaRon, I want to come to you really quick. You have a conversation that you take to school age children about being themselves, and I think that we're kind of at that point right now. They have these influences coming from the outside, but can you speak a little bit about how our children can really understand who they are at an early age, so that they can develop their own belief system that they stand on?
No, absolutely, Andrew. I was thinking as the conversation was going on, is that the most powerful system is your belief system. At all the systems that we create and abide by, our belief system is the most powerful system because our belief system is the compass to our lives. What we believe will determine what we do or what we don't do, where we go or where we don't go, if we try or if we don't try. So our belief system is the navigation system to our lives. It's going to determine where we end up at the end. And it starts at a young age. One of the greatest issues that I ever had was the problem believing in me, believing that I was good enough, believing that I was worthy because I was different. And one of the things that I teach students now that it's okay to be different. Be authentically you. You're not supposed to be like anybody else. One thing about me, y'all, is I never fit in with the crowd. I always stood out. People knew I was different. I knew I was different. So even when I went in the room, people was able to identify me. That's that Christian boy. He loves God. And I used to get talked about when that happened. So it's the crazy thing about it is that you got to just understand as a youth, as a person, because it starts from the youth, but we're all affected by it when we grow up, especially we haven't dealt with it. And that's what creates hurt men and different things that we talk about now. But when it comes to being in high school, being young, middle school, It comes to knowing, being comfortable being different. That's what I had to learn. I had to be comfortable being different. You're not, when you understand that you're not supposed to fit in, when you understand that you have a certain uniqueness, when you understand that even though all those influence in those pictures, in that picture that you saw, all those influence you're going to cross at some point in life. And you got to decide, do I want my life to go in the direction of these influences? Or do I want my life to go in the direction of great men? And then we got to position ourselves to follow those men.
Love it, love it. We got a couple comments here. I definitely don't want to miss. Robert Hawkins, thanks for tuning in. Always appreciate your support. He left a comment. He says, "Good evening. That is the reason I created the Facebook page Niggas Lane, to show everything that a black man can be successful with a young man that has nothing to do with sex population." I think he clarified here. It's the reason. Let's see. Okay, it shows the black man in the light of being responsible rather than being driven by materialism, sex, and pointless popularity. And so definitely follow Mr. Hawkins at Negus Lane on Facebook. Let's see here. He also says it's history, social events, and black-owned businesses being represented daily on that group. He says, and we are talking about men's night. But I also created a group for my black queens too called Ebony Queens Boulevard that represents the same thing for black women. I created that group in representation of my daughters. Hey, listen, I appreciate the work that you're doing, because it is extremely important that we begin to control our own narratives, right? There is a lot of money being made by us living degenerate lifestyles. So many industries are supported by our desires, our negative desires. You know, the whole alcohol industry, the tobacco industry, the marijuana industry, the sex industry. They play off of our weaknesses and they capitalize off of it. So it's extremely important that we create our own lanes and avenues, such as Elevating Men, such as what Mr. Hawkins has on, so that we can have our own narrative that we're pushing to the next generation. Andrew, you had a comment?
Yeah, just along those lines. I was not going to comment about this, but, and I don't know for certain, however, my cynicism says that there's also a machine out there that is called the media, and the NBA is part of it. And getting to the point, I'd like to believe that before Ja was even on anybody's radar, he had been scouted, screened, and his background was known because the marketers had to make sure that they marketed to his segment, his group, and also the people that he was going to influence.
Definitely. It's the machine. It's the machine. Lorenzo, he left another comment. He says, how do we make the image of being a well-disciplined and educated man popular, and the ignorant and undisciplined man unpopular, embarrassing, and shameful? Definitely a good question. And I would love to get to the bottom of that, because at the end of the day, I find it very ironic that the image that most of our young men want to follow is the image that gets you in prison, right? And so I don't know if any of you remember that show Scared Straight, right, where they would take kids into the prison system. You know, they would see how tough it is, they would see how rough it is, but for some reason it's become glamorized. It's almost like a badge of honor, like, you know, I did my time, right? And we got to get away from that. We got to get away from that for sure. Eric Bryce, he says we may need to endeavor into not just what success looks like, but what does and should it feel like inside. I'd like to stay there for a minute. I would like to stay there for a minute. And I appreciate that comment, because what does it look like or feel like? You know, there's something that you can have a empty success, right? So say if you do attain success in the way that we're talking about, the negative way, right? What does that feel like versus the right way, the quote unquote right way?
I'll
and
say,
what, Laurent, go ahead.
You got away with it. A lot of people want easy success. The reason why criminals go after if you can say not like scamming people, is because how easy it seems. It seems it's work in itself, but it's a way of getting over the system, over the government system, or getting back what people feel owed. I mean, I believe truly it's a lot of different reasons on why they do it, but one of the main reasons, I'll just say it again, is that it looks glamorous because of how quick they can get it. And everybody, a lot of people knows that when it hard work, going through the system, the right way of doing it, it takes a lot of hard work and time. And some people want to skip that time part. I want my pie in the sky today. You know what I'm saying? And if we can rob somebody, even though the consequences are what they are, if we have the chance of getting past the consequences, then we hit a lick. And so the easy way out, it's a lot easier in some minds to take money from somebody than punching a clock. It's just what it is. It's the image. I got money. You got money for robbing, stealing, doing all that? I got money, and look what I'm doing. Well, that seems like the easy way. I don't want to work a 9-to-5 job, so I'm going to do it your way.
And I think that another thing is we have to like be completely honest, like brutally honest. There was a report that I read. This was some years back, but they actually looked at the average income of a drug dealer. You know, it's like 30, 35,000. Like, unless you like at the top of the food chain, you ain't even making any money anyway. And so they glamorize the 5 to 10%, just like they do with anything else. And what a lot of these young kids miss is that 9 times out of 10, that's not going to be you. You're probably more like the 70, 80, 90% that's going to land in jail, that's going to make yourself unemployable, that's going to go through a whole bunch of hell that you really didn't have to go through, you know, to end up making the same type of money that you would make on a job, but you're running all of this risk. And so another thing that we have to talk about is risk versus reward, right? There may be a reward there, but what risk are you taking? Mike, you have something you want to add?
Well, see, me growing around north of me was on the west side or the northwest side where the Crips and you had the Bloods came off of Piru. They wanted to be a part of a family. It wasn't all about the neighborhood per se, but it was a family. And they were willing to take the risk, as you were saying, of the 33,000 that they would get to small numbers of money. But it was just being accepted. The question is, how do we get our families to accept now the children, or the children to be accepted by the families that are raising them when you have a 2-parent or 1-parent home? When you have a 1-parent home, there's no one else around to talk to, but you have somebody else now to conversate with and to hang with, which is more important. And so what happens is that we look at Morant, we were talking about him. Okay, he wanted to still be a part of something. So what do you do when you have that much money? How do you become accountable when there's nobody there to call you or to share with you about what accountability is? His father, they had a fight one time on TV that I saw. His father was getting into the fight with the boy. That's not your running boy. That's not your homeboy. That's your father. That's your dad. You're supposed to now break those things down and de-escalate problems. But now he's escalating problems is what I'm trying to say. So where do we go when we want to be a part of someone and we don't have anybody to be connected to at home? How do we get our children? How do we get our community to see that?
That's big. That's big.
One thing, and to that, that's the point of the S in the systems. I truly believe that creating systems where young men can come in one way and leave another way. That's what it's about. We are the people. I know a lot of times we talk about it like when is somebody gonna come up with a solution? We are the solution. And it comes with creating a system that allows young men to come in and build their mind, not with their self-esteem, showing them how to become entrepreneurs if they don't want to work for someone. It's a system that we have to create so that when we come in to show them, hey, this is cool. Look what you can become successful at. Because the whole problem is it's the polluted mind. It's the way that The people who are committing the crimes or doing whatever they're doing that's not right, it's the way that they're thinking. So when by us creating a system, by us creating an academy, by us creating a school, I'm gonna say this right now. I'm claiming it right now. It's in the future. The Lord's already showed me. It's called Young Millionaires Academy. It's where a system where you can, it's a nonprofit organization, right in the hood. Don't know where yet the Lord's gonna have it be. But I thought about this. It's a system. We have to give them another way by showing them and putting it where they are, and don't charge them a doggone arm and a leg to do it. Change the minds, you'll change the life.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But you also
Got
have to change
another comment
society.
here from Larnell Jones. Lawrence A. Jones Funeral Home. It's one of my other brothers from another mother, and his actual brother is right below me. But it says it's a consistent reprogramming psychologically and in real time that must take place in order to shift the mold from the bad guy to the good guy image. Absolutely. And, there's one thing that I always say, if we don't step outside of our home, so every man on here is a father or a grandfather, and we try our best to pour into the children who are closest to us. But we also have to do a little bit more because we understand that not every household is like ours. And if we don't step outside of ourselves and outside of our box, those things end up at our doorstep eventually. The child up the street who doesn't have the same influence as your child is likely to be influenced by them. And so it's almost as if we have to take that extra step and say, hey, I'm getting ready to go out with my boys. Let me take that boy up the street as well, and show him a positive influence. It's important. It's important. Lauren, you coach. You do a lot of things with the youth. And so, just with this conversation that we're having right now about influences and kind of stepping outside of our box, what thoughts are you having right now?
I think the one thing that I haven't heard is connection. That's the one thing that I haven't heard is connection. I think as adults, very often we forget what it was like to be that boy. And so we're spending so much time trying to fix that we're not truly identifying what the real issue may be. We're not building a connection point with, this young man or that young man. We're not making those connection points, because if you're not making a connection with someone, you're not going to get their buy-in. That's just plain and simple. If you don't take the time to build the connection, you're not going to get the buy-in. And when you are trying to help somebody rehabilitate their mind, their spirit, their souls, it takes time. It takes time. And are you willing to invest the time that it takes? We talk about short-term success when we talk about the neighborhood dope man, and guys like that, that short-term success. And of course, everybody wants it quick, fast, and in a hurry. I don't care who you are, even if you know that it's a long process. We all prefer to have it as quick as possible. But trusting the process, trusting the vision, setting goals, and measuring those goals as you continue to move forward, to teach the process, to teach that this is a long game. This isn't a short game that we're playing. That is what truly becomes important, is building those connections. You think about the multitude of organizations that are out there serving the same purposes, and why haven't those organizations made a connection to make a bigger event that can create bigger, better impact, because there's more connections and more conduits involved in order to make a bigger lightning rod for the young men to see, for the young men to attach themselves to. And it doesn't even have to be boys. We could be talking about grown men. It's the same thing, and so we have to focus on the connecting piece and not talking over people's heads, but meeting people where they are, making sure that you ask those questions. Do you even understand what I'm saying? Is what I'm saying makes sense? Because they could be listening to you, but not really taking in what you're saying because ears are created to hear, but are they really taking in what you're saying? And so you have to ask those questions sometimes. You truly have to ask those questions. Do you understand? Do you have any questions? What are your pain points? What are your fears that prohibit you from stepping outside of your comfort zone in order to move to a new place, in order to move to a different or a higher level?
Mm. You said a mouthful. I got a couple notes here, so I want to come back to that really quick. I do want to jump in the comments section. We've got some comments here. Um, Galen, she's always supportive, and so we definitely appreciate you coming. She said, "What about contacting the schools and come in and talk to the youth, or do a school program and go to them?" That's absolutely what we're working on doing. And so, if you have any connections in that area, please inbox me. I know Lauren; he was at a North Kansas City school last weekend. This Wednesday, I'm going to be at the Herndon Center. And so we are trying to do our part, but we do need your help and support. Um, we have Justice Jones. Thanks for tuning in. Said, although I never understood it and took it for granted as a kid, my dad, Lauren, was always big on making connections, and it truly helps me as an adult and when I was a teacher. So big ups, Lojo.
I'm sorry. I love it.
Lorenzo Hughes, he says, hell, some of us older men are trying to act like the young men, sagging pants, flashing guns, fighting as a form of de-escalation, etc. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, see, it says, I agree with Lauren. God and nature never happens rapidly. There's always growth or development process. You have the process of planting seeds to have the plant. For humans, we have the humbling process, a struggle before being blessed with success and longevity. Yeah, listen, you really said something about the conversation. The conversation. What conversations are we having with our children? Right? Like when we talked about, success and they're emulating and modeling after what they see on television. They're very susceptible to peer pressure. So when they go to school, they're pressured by the children around them who may have different influences in their home. What kind of conversations are we having with our children as it relates to what they want out of life? Like, have you ever actually asked your child, what do you want out of life? Like, where do you see yourself as an adult? Because I believe sometimes we get so caught up in the day-to-day routine, taking them to school, we're going to work, making sure they do their chores, etc. But do we ever take that time to slow down and have a real conversation so that we can find out what motivates them? Like, what is it that you're shooting for? Because again, whatever a person wants the most becomes their biggest weakness. And so as a parent, if you have no idea what it is your child is going for or after, you have no way of knowing how to steer them or what to steer them away from specifically. Lauren, you want to add something?
Yeah, I truly believe that the biggest question that we can ask anybody, whether it's a kid or an adult, is what is your greatest fear? Because for most, fear is not a motivator. Fear keeps you running in the total opposite direction because you don't know what you are running towards. You are fearful of what you're running towards. And so most of us are unable to use fear as a motivator. And that is truly what prohibits us as human beings from moving forward is the fear of, whether it's the fear of success, whether it's the fear of what I leave behind as a result. Do I lose a friend? Do I lose my house? Do I lose my car? All these temporary things that uh, you don't die with anyway. Those fears prohibit us from moving in the direction and the path in life that we truly need to take in order to achieve our greatest success, which is never ever materialistic ever.
Definitely, definitely. Robert, he's got a comment here I think is important. He says, open door, open-ended communication with your children is paramount. You have to make them feel it's safe to talk to you on their level. They have to view you as a loving parent and not an authoritarian. Then they will open up to you. Very, very important. Laurent.
I have an instance. It's crazy that we talk about this. So one thing about me, You know, I always talk to my children about what they want to do. LeRon, the motivator. I ain't coming there for no reason. But with my children, I'm always having a conversation what they want. And for example, my 14-year-old, she doesn't really know what she wants right now. So right now we're in the discovering phase. Another thing that I learned about my 14-year-old is that there are definitely a lot of influences going on. And even this morning, I was talking to my daughter, and at one point, there was, there's these crop tops that people wear, and I seen it, and I said, you know what? I don't think that's appropriate, even though it's for the kids are doing it now. I had a conversation with her, and she came to me. She said, "Dad, I don't know why there's a problem we wearing a crop top." Now, instead of being a father, but like, because I said so. I left the door open to explain it to her, and I told her, "Look, it's not appropriate. Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't necessarily mean it's okay." And looking to show her now, granted, there's still some talking that needs to be done to bring it to her understanding, but I was thinking about how being open and communicate with your child will allow them to be open with you and stay from those negative influence. But yet you have to have that open door of communication. And going back to train up a child the way they should go, I'm just saying that when it comes to it just comes to you leading them in the direction, leading them in that direction, and being a parent that they really can talk to. That's why my younger daughter is in acting. We found her passion because I was open with her. What do you like? What do you want? She's 8 years old. She's an actor now. She loved to dance. The thing about it is that she was telling me different things she wanted to try. And she realized if I love to sing, I love to dance. And somebody said, well, if you're an actor, you can sing and dance. She brought it to me. I said, oh my goodness, baby, that's exactly what it is. We put her in acting, and now she's on the path. But it's building a relationship, talking to your child, finding out what it is that they need and who they are.
That's important. That right there is important. Mike, you have something you want to add?
2 questions. How can a parent talk to a child about fear when they don't have their own confidence within themselves? I'm going to brag. My 3 girls, even though there was a discourse between my ex-wife, my oldest daughter got her doctorate out of TSU. One below her, Alyssa, graduated from Rose College, and Michaela is about to come out with an electrical engineering degree out of KU. We created now an entity and an environment now in which we gave them time. Now we were confident in ourselves that it spilled over into them. So when a parent does not have confidence and they have fears of their own, how then could they talk about this juggernaut that's been bothering them, that's been a liability to them? And the other situation happens is that sometimes parents are afraid to talk to their children because they don't want to seem to be inept. They don't want to bring out their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities. And so now the conversation is this. Now, number 2, the last one. From the age of 13 to 24, what are our kids listening to that influences them the most?
You know what? You hit on something there. I really think it's about honesty and transparency at the end of the day. Like, one of the best things that you can say to your children is, I didn't get it right. Here's why, and this is what I would have done differently. Because hindsight is something, and as parents, I really believe that that's just why nature is the way that it is. We grow up, then we have children. And that's because we've already gone down the path that they're going to go down. And so it's easy to say, hey, listen, I'm not perfect. I made a lot of mistakes. You see this situation in my life that's undesirable. If I would have known this, things could have been different. But a lot of times we try to display this image of perfection for our children. And one, it fails because it doesn't teach them any real life lessons. 2, it's underestimating their intelligence. And so when we try to act like we have it all together and they're smart enough to see that we don't, then there's an automatic disconnect, right? Because they feel like you're lying to them. Another thing, real quick, there was something that Lauren touched on, and I want to just kind of add a thought. So, have you ever heard of the a saying like, a child cleans up their room and they're looking for a reward, and we say, well, I'm not going to give you a reward for something you're supposed to do, right? Our children are looking to be uplifted and they're looking for some form of gratification, right? And so, say when they go to school with a pair of Jordans on, there's instant gratification because their friends are like, "Oh, you got the new J's! Oh, this right." Sometimes as parents, I think we make a very grave mistake, and that's they bring home a D or an F. We gonna spend an hour lecturing them on that, right? They bring home that B or whatever. Okay, hey, good job. That was good. That's what you're supposed to do. And so I think that we also have to find ways of really rewarding our children. It isn't always about like, shelling out money or anything like that, but we have to really let them know how proud of them we are when they do something that's positive versus spending all of this time on the negative. We do need to spend a lot of time on that positive as well. Lauren?
And I wanna add to that a little bit. You were talking about honest communication, and we talked about fear. Once you say I'm scared too, you'd be surprised how guards just come all the way down. All the way down. You're like, yeah, I'm scared too. Because now they're able to make that connection because it's not just them being alone. It's somebody that feels the same way they feel. It may not be the same type of fear, but it is a level of fear in itself. And so that in itself is a connection. Right there. There was a guy, just to piggyback off of your story about kind of celebrating our kids. There's a guy, very successful motivational speaker and businessman. Now, he said the greatest thing his mother ever did for him was obnoxiously praise him. He said it was obnoxious when he was a kid, but it breathed so much confidence in him that as an adult, he didn't think he could fail. And he didn't fail. He used that confidence that he got from his mother as a lightning rod to become the successful person that he is today.
Mm, that's good. That's good. That's good. For those of you that are just tuning in, we are talking about how we can help counteract some of the negative influences that our young men are faced with on a daily basis. Here at Elevating Men, we have a system. We call it SWAG. It's an acronym for systems, work ethic, accountability, and growth. Right now, we're talking about the S, which is systems. And there's a few key words that have come out when we talk about systems. Of course, there's your routine, there's your schedule. When we're talking about belief systems, and something else that has really come up that's important is that support system. You as the parent, the people that are around them, the community, etc. Andrew, you had a comment?
Will you put the picture back up, please?
Yes.
So one of the things that I talk about a lot is internal operating capacity. And if I notice that picture is inside of my square or my rectangle. It's inside of my circle, whether it's a circle or a square, it's inside of my comfort zone. And what I'm hearing a lot is about steering our children and growing our children and grooming our children so that they will get out of that particular square, that particular place. And if that particular place if my belief system said that my home was my comfort, was my castle, was my place of peace. If that was truly my belief system, then all of those images would not be inside of my home. My child is right now inside of that home, and so are those images. So right now, that square or that home is not filled with peace. Transparency. I had to watch my grandchildren this weekend or for a week, and I lost all of my hair. But what I did not truly understand, which I knew, but I did not understand, was I was not at peace. My capacity was gone. And therefore, the inside of the household was not at peace. And I could not give them peace. I could not, what I'm trying to get at is many people try and raise their children to get out of the home, to get outside of that home. If we actually thought of the home being the place of peace, and that is what we are supposed to build, then anything we went outside of the household to do would be to gather a tool to bring back to fortify the peace, to fortify the fortress. So therefore, that home would be the belief system. And everyone inside of that home would be a part of that belief system. Anything that did not belong inside of that home was not supposed to be there. If I had to go out to get my job and it was a $50,000 a year job, a $20,000 a year job, or $1 million a year job, it was just to bring that money back to the peace, because we have no peace of mind. Our parents have no peace of mind. I had no peace in my mind. So therefore, I'm teaching my children to go outside of what should be a peaceful place to seek peace, to seek growth, to seek something other than what should be right here. So therefore, their staple will be, I want a peaceful home just like my parents had. And I will build whatever I need to build around that to make sure that it supports this peaceful home. And that's the piece that we're missing.
Yeah, because an incomplete, broken home leaves you searching. Even the parents, even the parents. An incomplete or broken relationship has you looking outside of the relationship. Anything that is incomplete and broken gives us the urge to look outside of that. And so that's a very powerful thought. Very powerful.
I'm gonna tell you, in the midst of all of his chaos, I guarantee you, if I went and I talked to both of his grandmen, as he likes to call them, they would have said Grandpappy did the damn thing this week.
For sure, for sure. I know whenever I talked to him on the phone, I heard him in the background. They were having a ball.
Yeah,
They were having a ball.
I owe them big apologies and toy runs this week.
For sure. But you're right, man.
They had a ball while he was curled up in the ball, huh?
Right. But you know that's something though. Like when we speak about capacity, like he said that he was at his capacity, and that's where a lot of us are, because a lot of us grew up without fathers, or we grew up in incomplete homes or broken homes, or we're just at a point in life where we're looking for something outside of ourselves. We're unsatisfied with our careers, we're unsatisfied with our jobs, and so we're spending a lot of time trying to fix ourselves, and it doesn't leave us the capacity to fix and steer our children. And so that's why so many of our children are spending their time, you know, on their tablets, on their phones, looking outside of the home for influences, when really we should be right there with them, and they shouldn't really have the time or opportunity to be looking so hard elsewhere. Laurent.
You know, this is kind of off, but I don't think it is off at all, actually. But I was thinking about a lot of what you said, and how you talked about a lot of us look for certain things outside of the home. The truth is, we look for a lot of things outside of ourselves. So I do what's called this inner child work. I have a coach who trained me on this inner child work, and I found out something very deep. I found out that when I was young, that because my mother didn't really make my games, because she had life and everything to take care of, because I felt like that she didn't support me, but I didn't understand the life of an adult. It left me with a certain void. And that void was, I wanted to feel loved. I wanted to feel accepted. And what happened was, that void, that hurt, that inner child not feeling that intimacy, I began to look for that in my wife. And I had to learn that when you look for love outside of you, when you look for someone else to fill your void, you'll always remain void on the inside, because the person who has to be healed is you. The void has to be filled by you. And what I learned is that I'm responsible for my happiness. No one's responsible for your happiness but you. And when we look outside of ourselves, we only bring more hurt, more pain. We have more resentment because we begin to blame people for our own problems. What it is that we have to go back inside, because every grown man, every grown woman, somewhere in their life, if there is a need for acceptance, if there's a fear, if there's a doubt, if there's insecurities, it came from somewhere in your childhood. That's another thing that I coach on, how to find what that is so that we can be free from it. A lot of our hurts and our pains and our fears and our doubts and all those insecurities come from within. So sometimes we just got to reflect back on what that is and understand that no one is responsible for our happiness or anything external. Everything comes from within and we're responsible for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mike, I'll go to you next. Just really quick, I want to. I think this is a good time to put this out there for those of you that are just tuning in. This Saturday, March 11th, we're going to be at the Oasis Church from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. We call it the Man Cave Prayer Breakfast. There is a free breakfast. It's open to the public. It starts promptly at 9 a.m. But what I want to mention is that this is for all ages, men and boys. And so if there are any ladies who are watching and you have young men in your life, your nephews, your sons, bring them out to the prayer breakfast. You could drop them off and we'll have them for 2 hours. They'll get a free breakfast and they'll have a conversation with a group of men who are really looking to elevate and improve. And they'll be able to hear these types of conversations. And so definitely, if you want to RSVP, you can go to the Elevating Men page on Facebook. Just let us know how many people are coming so we can make sure we have enough food. But I want to make sure that you all know this is an open invitation. It isn't just for men, teenagers, boys. We want them there as well. So, Mike, you had a comment.
Mike, can I make a real quick comment?
Yes.
Hey, Andrew, I just sent you a picture. Would you upload it while Mike's talking, please? Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
I can't.
The point that I'm making is this, and I got to say this. I would have been a Crip or a Blood. It have not been for my parents building up in my spirit and in my mind a relationship with Jesus Christ. Wherever I went, whatever I did, he was there somewhere that kept me in the right alignment, that kept me from going in that direction. And when you share with them now about this power that's greater than any power in this world, then they begin to understand what a true, authentic relationship is. Because now when you have nobody to talk to, who do you have to talk to? You have to talk to him. Now, my question was before, what is one of the biggest influences that now influences in this environment, in this society, that keeps us away from listening to our parents? And I tried to get you to see that it is music. Music is so effective in the Black community that is beyond my comprehensions. Mere words can't even articulate how much of an influence it has been on us. Also, I listen to the music because I got kids around me and young adults and people around me in the gym. And I hear what they listen to. I hear what the music is being played on the system. And now we're influenced by things that are not commiserate or apropos to now the things and the way a family should be. It has to be about sex and guns and drugs and things like that and such. They're influenced by the things that they hear. That's called subliminal seduction. They're seduced into something that is cool. I'm the in dude. I'm the right away dude. Instead of now being influenced by those people that we see, like Barack Obama or our father or our grandfather or people that are around us.
For sure. Yeah, that sparks a lot. Andrew, I don't know who was Andrew. Okay.
Can you all see this?
Yes, the Cosby Show.
The Cosby House.
The home, not a house. The home.
Mm-hmm.
This picture right here. I don't know if I'm the only one. I might be the only one, but that's when I started dreaming. That's when I started dreaming of what a home could be. Not a house, but what a home could be. The pictures on the wall, the happiness inside of the household, the security, the safety, the thoughts, the logic, the mindset, the belief systems, everything that made that home. That's when I started dreaming.
Definitely, definitely. Sure, I definitely wanted the Huxtable home for sure. Lauren, you had a comment you wanted to add?
Couple comments. I wanted to add value, add a little something to Laron to what you were talking about not our happiness being up to us. It's not up to anybody outside of us to make us happy. It's important for us as parents, it's important for us as adults to properly teach our children that, because as adults, that's super easy to say. As children, the expectation is that it's my parents' job to make me happy. Like, it's your job to take care of me. And so we have to provide that guidance and really guide them into that thought process. Because ultimately, as a child, you expect your parents to take care of you, to provide the nature and the nurture in order for you to, once you are of age and are ready to step outside of the home, you are actually ready to survive and operate in the world based off the things that you were taught in the home. And then the other statement I wanted to make, Mike, was in regard to your comments about the music. I think for me, just being around kids so much is we never ask the question, what is it about this music that influences you? We never ask that question. We dismiss it. Oh, this music is trash. Y'all ain't listening to no good music. When I was your age, we was listening to trash too. And that's the truth. But nobody's asking the kids, like, what is it about this that is influencing you? Because maybe there's something that we could take out of that music as a way for us to build a connection with those kids, the same way that those words and that subliminal seduction is doing to them. Sometimes you have to take a page out of somebody else's book in order to try to tip the scale back the other way.
Definitely. Robert Hawkins had a couple comments here that I think are relevant to what you just said. One, um, the thing about it too is some of us miss there is a vibrational level, even without the words, that is disrupted to your spirit on a whole nother level, and you don't even have to hear a word spoken or sung. There are studies behind that, that the decibel level, the beats, the cadence, and all those things do speak to our inner selves. And so, one thing that I've noticed is there's a genre of music that actually has a positive message with the same beat. And I've experimented on this with my children. Well, I'll turn on a song and it has the beat and the cadence that they like, but the messages are positive, and I'll find them nodding their head to it just like they would any other song. And so, yeah, there's definitely some validity to that. The other thing too, and I want to stick here for just a second, the best question to ask or be asked when it comes to your children is why. Because once that is answered, it opens up a whole avenue of dialogue. Let's talk about that. So, for anybody who is raising a young man, and I see you too, if they're raising a young man right now, what does your conversation look like? I think that's something that we really gloss over sometimes as parents. Have you really ever asked your child what it is that they want out of life? How do they feel they can get it? Because I've done it. I've done it. And I've watched my children just look in the air like, I don't know. What do you want? What do you want, son? Now, if you start suggesting, right, if you start steering and guiding, they might start nodding their head. You want a nice car, don't you? You want a nice, yeah. And so what I feel is our children don't know what they want. They haven't developed their square. They don't really know what their own personal morals, principles, and values are. They don't have any set boundaries. And so when they interact with the world, they're created for them. They're created for them. Um, I'll go Andrew and then LaRon. And if you could just jot down your comments so that you don't forget. Andrew, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, you said what does our conversation look like? This is what my conversation looks like to my grandchildren. Notice there's no smile on my face. Notice that my eyes are stern and piercing. Notice that my voice is direct and it's not upbeat and happy. If you actually take a real assessment of yourself, if you have children in the home, the percentage of the times that you're smiling, the percentage of the times that you are internally happy and giving off happiness. Take a real poll of yourself, because you might find out that your stress level is here, or your stress level is here. Some of your stress level is here, but either way, there's a strong possibility that what you're giving that child is not the happiness that you want them to seek, that you want them to emulate. And they're looking at you as like, well, if that's what an adult is supposed to be, or if that's what hard work looks like, or if that's your version of happiness, I think I'll look elsewhere, like in the gun or in the rap or in the dollars or someplace else, because what you're showing me, I don't want to emulate.
Andrew, we had this my son, one of my sons literally said, Dad, I don't think I want to be a man. Those were his exact words. And I had to think, like, why would you say that? And he said, well, it looks hard. Like, it doesn't look fun, you know? And so what he sees for me is me getting up early. You know, he sees my stress level and running my business and operating the household and paying the bills and not having fun. That's what he sees as a man. And so you're absolutely right, Andrew. We do have to evaluate ourselves and the image that we portray for our children. There was a comment here. Let me find 1 second. We got a lot coming in. This one, Lorenzo Hughes, always very insightful. He says, I believe our youth find it hard to listen to us now because they've discovered that we have lied and been lying to them. They see us failing at what we're telling them to do, and they don't see any success in what we're teaching, and we don't even practice what we're preaching. Who follows that kind of person? They're stupid. They see and remember. I even saw and remember to this day. That sums up a lot. That sums up a whole lot. Like I said, that open, honest, transparent conversation is so important. If you've made mistakes, tell them. This is the mistake I made. This is where I got off track. If I could do it all over again, this is the way that I would do it, because to just gloss over it and keep moving forward and say, do as I say and not as I do, insults their intelligence, and it doesn't work. LaRon, I wanted to come back to you. You had a comment before Andrew.
Actually, that was cool. I actually didn't have a comment. I was actually in agreement with what you were saying, but I appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Yeah, for those of you that are in the comment section, keep the comments coming. We appreciate you adding to the conversation because there's a lot of value there. But how can we? I think Mike got disconnected. How can we portray an image that our children want to emulate when we have these stress levels, and you know, when we're working through our own traumas and we're trying to become better as a person ourselves? How do we juggle those two things?
So it goes back to the belief system that we were talking about. It's like, if we have to apologize to our children, it sounds like that we're not satisfied with where we are, not where we want to be, but where we are. And if we're not satisfied with where we are, that means that we're not satisfied inside of that home. And therefore, that we're not satisfied inside of this body. We're not satisfied. So we're not at peace. And if we're trying to change a thought pattern of having to go outside to find, then we're already teaching them the wrong thing, because we're not satisfied. If the bills are paid, if the bellies are full, if there's no leaks in the roof, and they're sleeping peacefully at night, that might be something to build upon. that just might be something to build upon. And if the kids are happy and and you are happy with your productivity and what you have done so far, that you have not broken them, that might be something to build upon, because they might actually see that, okay, I'm not a billionaire, but I'm okay with who I am and what I've achieved. And I'm a lot further than what my father was, because he was happy with being himself, or he was at peace with being himself. Yeah, he wanted more for us, but what he gave us was his all. So now that he gave us his all, I'm going to take his all and add it with my all. And that means there's going to be two alls that I'm going to give to my child. And then that process might start growing of this internal peace versus seeking what I'm not and may never be.
I'm hearing you refer to that a lot, that peace and contentment, and then transferring over that peace and contentment to our children, right? My question would be, how do we do that in light of the influences that they get outside of the home? Because this is a legitimate question, because once they reach school age, the way the system is set up, they spend more time with their teachers and their friends than they do their parents. So we've got this small window of time to affect their mindsets, but they have almost an infinite amount of time for outside influences. During the school year, they're there from 8 to 4, or whatever those hours are, 9 months out of the year. And so how do we as parents combat those forces when they have so much more time than we do?
So actually, if you look at the clock, kids are really only outside of the household a third of a day. Just a third of a day at most, because a third of the day they're probably sleeping from 9 to 6, and another third of the day everything is they're back at home from 8 to 8, or from 3 to 9. They're only gone for most a third of the day. So that means 2/3 of the day you have an opportunity to actually influence them, if you find a way to increase your own capacity, if you find a way to replan your own daily schedule, if that's your priority. But if you put them in front of the television for a third of the day, or that Game Boy, or that computer a third of the day, so that you can rest, then they have 2/3 of the day outside of the household.
Got a comment from Justice Jones. She says, as a former teacher, I'm telling you, what you portray at home is so much more effective on your kids than we are. I appreciate that. There was a comment from Latrice Tucker. She said, do you think a lot of boys have that same feeling about not wanting to grow up and be a man? Anyone? I just, Lauren said no. Andrew saying yes. Laron, what do you think? No. Mike, what do you think? Are young boys looking at this and saying, like, I don't think I want to be a man. I don't want to grow up and have to deal with those things?
I say because
I do think the latter part of that. I don't think the whole growing up to be a man is not what they want. I think that they understand just as much as we do that they're probably not equipped. But I don't think the thought is I don't want to be a man per se. It is I don't want to follow in that path of a man. Mm-hmm. And so, the lack, when we don't equip our young men to be proper men, that's where they start to get off track, because they know I don't have the skills to do this. But who out there is who's showing me? Nobody. Like my dad, he's even in a two-parent, even when the dad's in the house, sometimes the dad's focus is not on the children as much as it should be, because he's focused on being the sole provider, because in his past, that's what society told him, is that was his job as a man, is to provide for the family, and mom took care of everything else. And so he wasn't active. And so that's where you get that. Well, I'm not equipped, and so some boys may say, I don't want to grow up. None of I be who the hell really wants to grow up? It's fun being a kid. Let's be honest, for the most part. But when we don't address it the proper way, that's probably where you may get that young man that says, I'm good. And I don't think they're saying they don't want to be a man. They just don't want to be that type of man.
Yeah, there's a Tammy Martin. Thanks for tuning in. She said they may not want to grow up to be the man that they see. Children see through the facades. And my question to that would be, the men that they see, like, so that would be the men that are raising them, hopefully raising them, providing for them, caring for them, etc. They don't want to be that man. When you say that they see through the facades, I'm just kind of curious, just maybe some clarity. If you're still tuning in, if you could just provide some clarity on that statement.
Well, I think you provided the clarity when you talked about not practicing what you're preaching, right? That is the facade.
Well, what about this though? So okay, true. Because I was gonna say like the preacher kid thing, right? They say preachers' kids turn out to be the worst. Now I've definitely seen that, and so
your daddy was a preacher, right?
We ain't going there. But there are those situations where there could be a good father in the home, but the child doesn't want to model after that. And I feel like there's this element of the family life or the traditional life looking boring when you look at the alternative, right? Like if I turn on a music video, that looks a lot more fun than my dad just going to work every day, coming home to mom, going to sleep, and repeating the process every day. This looks a lot more fun, and we're in a fun-loving society, so I think that's a portion of it too. I'm sorry, everybody threw their hands up. I apologize. Was it Mike or LaRon?
LaRon.
I'll make a quick statement. It's just real quick. And I was going to just say this, that what it comes down to when we're emulating what we want to emulate to our children, it comes to managing our emotions and stress. A lot of times I will see a child saying, I don't want to be a man and grow up because of what they're seeing, how they're seeing it managed. How maybe they don't spend as much time as the child wants with them, or even if they're doing that, there's some out of tuneness that for the child is happening. For whatever that is, it can be a lot of different things. But when an adult when a child looks at a father and he's working, doing all this, that, and the other, it's also the image of success. Like you said, Andrew, when they see this on TV, that looks successful. So the communicating with that child, what success really is, that it's not all glitz and glamour, helping them understand that in reality, in what it is that most people are going to do after you find your passion, work that passion. I think that conversation and talk with your child will get them to see. But I believe their image of success is distorted.
Definitely. Mike, did you have a comment?
PDS, post-traumatic syndrome, mental health conditions that children have oftentimes in our communities. We don't have the insurance that will facilitate now the psychological type of process they will go through to see why the child is acting out. The schools don't facilitate that, even though they're supposed to have the money goes to someplace else. But it's really a hard thing to deal with, because in my grandchildren, there seems to be an unbalance when it becomes to now their way of seeing life and seeing things that they should know. And that's a whole nother story. But in my house, I was so happy to get away from my home, because I was there with Apostle Paul and Mary, Jesus' mother. So far as I'm concerned, I've never been around so many perfect people in my life. At least I thought. at my point, like you said, Andrew, I was ready to get out of the home because I didn't see it as anything fun because I could not relate to going to prayer meeting and to going to Bible study and vacation Bible school all year round and be in that kind of capacity. Now, was it good for me? Yes. I'm not saying they were wrong, but I had no one to relate to, so I started relating to other things. My fraternity, Mega Psi Phi, my brothers. I finally have some brothers. I grew up in a home. Of course, you guys know that I was adopted. I had no siblings. They became my brothers. Women, we hang out. I'm out. I'm in the existential, as I would say. I'm part of the game plan of what life can be. I'm cool now. But man, I tell you one thing, you got to get a hold of those kids and start relating to them at a very young age. And even at the point that you may be distorted from them now and they're teenagers going from boys to men, step in there right now and now be vulnerable. Like you said, transparency is the case, is the key. Don't think it's bad to break down and cry with them or see you cry. Don't think that it's bad to now to hug them and tell them that you love them and express the type of love they've been missing that you don't want them to get from the street or from a woman and they lay down and start having children at a young age. Show them, express to them how much you need them and how much not only do they need you in their life, but you need them in your life. And I think that would be something that would be very, very powerful for them and that would be impactful for them as they move along this life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you guys have anything that you want to add to that?
Oh,
Andrew.
not to add to that. I was just my own comment is back to the sons not the boys not growing up are growing up not wanting to be a man, and I'm gonna put that in my own personal perspective. I believe that they don't necessarily know what a man is or what it is to be a man. And some of them don't even use the default by being born with a penis as considered being a man. They want to grow up, and this is I'm a stickler on words. I want to grow up to be a rapper. I want to grow up to be a basketball player. I want to grow up to be a successful business person. I want to grow up to be a doctor. I want to grow up to be anything other than a man who is a doctor, a man who does play basketball, a man who does run a successful business. Their order, their sense of order is not there. And we have not given them that order. The man is the one who grows up and carries the seed. And he provides and plants a foundation for that seed to someday be planted and to grow. That's what a man does. He carries that seed, and there's a whole bunch more to that. But in order to protect that seed, he goes out to become this person outside of the household, so that he can bring enough resources back to the household. He equips his mind well enough so that he can communicate outside of the household, so that he can bring back resources to the household. He does whatever is necessary to bring back from the city what's necessary to surround the household so that seed will continue to grow. And he does not have that order right now. That's why he wants to grow up and be something outside of himself, outside of the household, and then bring that to the household, thinking that will fit.
Yeah. Teaching our boys that they actually carry the seed is a huge one. Like that concept had to be missed over a couple different generations, because what we see it as is when you impregnate a woman, and that's her child. A lot of men see it that way, or as if birth starts with a woman, when we're actually the ones that are carrying the seed, right? And so there has to be a level of importance, kind of put on that. We need to teach our young men that, hey, like you're literally carrying life, right? And when you lay down with that woman, that's on you. And so that goes back to our conversation last week, accountability. which is the A in swag. And so we'll get to that on another show. Lauren, you got a comment?
You saying that I was watching a video of one of the fatherhood pages that I follow on Instagram. There was this guy that had 7 kids, and he went on this rant about how he told each of his 7 baby mamas that he didn't want to have kids, and he didn't want, but they was like they let him do what he did anyway, and it just kind of speaks a lot to our lack of knowledge, our lack of education as it is related around sex and procreation and things of that nature. It was just very, very eye opening, and it was actually pretty sad, to be honest with you. But I mean, that's what we here for, to help them out.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, guys, it's been a great conversation. Laurent, let me ask you, what would you say your key takeaway is, or takeaways from what you've heard so far? So something that people at home can, have that conversation with their teenage boy. What was important? What was important to you in this conversation?
I think it always comes back to this one thing, and we always say it: transparency. Transparency is key, because if you're transparent about sex, then your kids will feel more comfortable when something comes up about sex that they feel like they need to talk to you about. If they're dealing with someone influencing them to do things they shouldn't be doing, it's important for them to feel comfortable with telling you that. Transparency. If you are a parent and you know that you haven't been that parent that you could be, and you know within yourself, let them know that. Like I did. It's about being transparent. And if your child sees that you're transparent and you open with them, when they do go through these things in life, when they are hit at school with doing stuff that they know they shouldn't be doing, skipping school, skipping class, doing whatever they're doing, when they do come against these influences, they'll remember you, that the foundation inside of the home. Well, I can talk to my daddy about this. Somebody said this to me. Somebody offered this to me. Now they're bringing it to you. And now you can help them to understand why they don't want to go this route, why they're called to be different, why they're not called to be like everybody else. So transparency, ultimately, I believe, is the key to help direct your child in the right direction. That's also the case. If that foundation and that openness is there, they'll come to you.
I would have to say, and I'll ask you guys this as well. Just your key takeaway. Mine is conversation. Like, what kind of conversation are you actually having with your children? What does it sound like? Are you asking the question why a lot, like Mr. Hawkins said? And one conversation I'm definitely going to have with all my children, I encourage you as well, is to ask them what success looks like to them when they become an adult. Right? Like, you want to be successful when you grow up, right? Yeah, okay. What does that look like? Like, describe it to me. And that'll give you a really big indication of what their mindset is. Is it money? Are they money motivated? Is it that are they going to talk about friendships and relationships? Are they going to talk about family? And then when they describe what success looks like to them, ask them the question, how do you intend on getting it? And be quiet. Don't steer the conversation. Understand their thought process. Well, I'm going to, I don't know, I'm going to be an NBA player. Oh, okay, cool. So if you're going to be an NBA player, what should you be doing now to make that happen? Right? Because say you have a child that doesn't like to exercise or run, or they don't like drills. What's the likelihood of them being an NBA player? Like, put the mirror in front of them at a young age so they can kind of start understanding themselves, what they're willing to do, what they're not willing to do to get what they want. And so I would say that's one of my key takeaways for sure. Lauren, what would be yours?
A wise man once told me, if you want a kid to learn French or learn Greek, but they speak French, learn French so you can teach them how to speak Greek. Uh, Meet them where they are. Speak on a level that they can understand. Make that connection with them that makes sense. Because we can talk till we blue in the face, but if we haven't made a connection and we haven't reached down on their level to pull them up to a higher level, they will never reach that pinnacle of greatness that we want them to reach.
Love it, love it. Andrew, key takeaways.
Key takeaway is understanding my own internal operating capacity. Before I am with my grandchildren, I will increase that capacity, get the rest that I need, and always remember my ultimate goal, which is to love on them. Yeah, too many no's, too many stop it's, too many damn it's, oops, that slipped. Yeah, that is not the loving atmosphere. And that means that they are doing what they're doing, and I'm just reacting. I need to be leading. I need to be more involved, engaged, and proactive, showing them uh, where I want them to feel, where I want them to be, where I want them to know, where I want them. But I have to be there
Love it,
first.
love it. Mike, key takeaways.
I believe within my own self, I have to do self reflection. And I want to be available for my grandkids and even for my grown kids. But it's my approach. I can't be damning to them. I can't always have rules and regulations without now sharing with them the importance of certain things of just having me around, knowing that they can trust me. And that trust is a big word that I've learned to really, really delve into because now integrity. He wants me to be a certain way, but what do I see him doing? And so I want to be an example setter and not just a person with a bunch of words that come out of my mouth, but I want them to see me work, keeping my place clean, sharing with them about Black history, taking them to things and sharing with them things outside of what they're normally seeing or hearing about every day, giving them some grandpa time and sharing them the love as best I can. Not trying to be like anybody else, but just opening up myself and being open with them, letting them know, hey, there's certain things that I've done in my life that I'm ashamed of. But my soul looks back and wonder how I got over it. And just being there with them. And I think this was a great, great, very prudent topic that we did today. And I sure appreciate you all. I've learned a lot and I'm taking in a lot and you're helping me grow. And thank you.
Absolutely. A lot of good takeaways from this conversation. Again, what we're talking about is a system that Elevated Men created. It's called SWAG, Systems, Work Ethic, Accountability, and Growth. Today we focused on the S, which is systems, and from that we got our routine, our belief system, the importance of a support system. And so we'll be continuing this conversation over the next couple of weeks. If you are connected to any youth organizations, Elevating Men would like to have an opportunity to present this information to your group. And so if that is you, contact the Elevating Men Facebook page. Just send us a quick inbox message and say, hey, I'm with XYZ organization. We'd love for you to come out. This is something that we do free of charge. And so we just want to be able to impact the next generation as much as possible. Also, for those of you that are still here, I've got to make this announcement one more time. This Saturday, from 9 to 11, we'll be at the Oasis Church. We call it the Man Cave Prayer Breakfast. It is open to the public. It is free of charge, and it's for all ages of men, boys, teenagers, adult men. It's just an opportunity for us to congregate and have these types of conversations. And so if you have a young man in your life, husband, boyfriend, whoever he is, let them know. The Oasis Church this Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I got to preface this. This is not a church service. This is an opportunity for men to come together and have deep conversations. And we do appreciate Pastor Michael Brooks for giving us the facility to actually have these conversations. For those of you who are new to Elevating Men, we are a 501c3 organization, and we are taking donations so that we can further our mission. And so if you visit elevatingmen.com, you will see a donate link. We'd appreciate your donations, and they will be put to good use, primarily to carry out some of these programs that we want to implement. And so, guys, I never get everything right. And so, is there anything that I missed? Any last words, final thoughts, something that needs to be put out there?
Address for Oasis Church.
See, I told you, 11500 Raytown Road in Raytown, Missouri. And so the flyer will be posted on the Elevating Men page. And between now and then, do us a favor, go to our YouTube channel. And so if you enjoyed this conversation, understand that this isn't the first time we've had it. We've been having these conversations for the past 2 years. And we've talked about everything from relationships to raising children to becoming the best version of yourself. This is what we're all about. And so we're here every Monday night at 8 p.m. sharp. Before we go, I always like to give my brothers an opportunity to promote themselves and what they do outside of Elevating Men. And so I'll go ahead and start with you, LaRon.
Absolutely. Listen, if you want to follow me on LaRon the Motivator. If you want inspiration for that behind, a lighting on fire, some encouragement, look, holla at me on there. If you are an entrepreneur, you got to go to the Balanced Entrepreneur Group. I'm telling you, it's going to change your life, where it's for entrepreneurs who need more than what they've been getting. It's an encouraging community. You just got to go check it out for yourself. And last but not least, check this out. I'm a life coach, motivational speaker, and I train communicators. If you want to be trained in communication so that when you deliver your message, you impact your audience, you want to holler at me. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you become a very impactful speaker. Or if you need some coaching in life and some direction in business, you're not making the money that you want, you stuck, you're ready to take your business life to the next level, holler at me. And if you need some motivation, it's LaRon the Motivator. I'm at the schools, you're working with the youth.
All right. Andrew Boykin.
Restin2050.org. Please visit the page. Please make a donation. Please help us dream. Please help us build. We are the restoration.
And I'm gonna add something on to that for my brother. I know you guys may not be able to tell, but he's a little bit under the weather, and so I'm gonna pitch this a little bit for him. Restin2050.org is an organization that Mr. Boykin created. It's allowing us to set aside capital, to set aside funds, to set aside resources for the next generation, which is something that I see a clear picture of, because my business is life insurance, and that's 100% about setting something aside today, planting a seed that won't be touched until the next generation. If we keep on handing the next generation nothing, then the generation after will have nothing, and that's why we're in the exact situation that we are in today. And so definitely visit restin2050.org, make a donation, set aside a seed for the future. Lauren, Lojo Speaks.
Lojo Speaks. Everything fatherhood. You know, I am coming from a background of a teen father. I have a unique journey that I've been able to navigate to where I am now. You know, I am fatherhood focused when I am not trying to elevate men. You can catch me at Lopez Boys Auto Sales. My aim is to keep you on the road to success in a quality pre-owned vehicle. So if you are in need or know someone that is in need, please check out LopezBoysAutoSales.com. Let us help you stay on the road to success.
All right. Mike Patton.
Hey, this is Mike Patton. They call me the Fit Pastor. April 2nd, we're going to be at 7405 The Paseo in Kansas City, Missouri. If you're looking for a church home, our grand opening starts on that day at 9:45. And you're looking for a church, a Bible teaching, preaching, ministering, and living church of people that now their motive is to be like Christ, not like the world, but like Christ says do. Come on that day and you will have the greatest experience I believe that you would have in your life. Also, I'm also a fitness trainer. I'm a personal trainer. I own Mike's Made Event Personal Training Center. This is my 31st year of being in business. If you're looking for someone to help you with your nutrition, with training, getting in shape, I am the one, because I go through a whole outline of now how to outline your nutrition, how to outline the workout. I show you, I'm with you from start to finish to now make and allow your body to become healthier at a longer term. My number is 816-916-3503. I look forward to hearing from you. God bless you.
That was awesome. And my last request, outside of Elevating Men, as I said before, I am a life insurance agent. And so if you would like to protect your family, make sure that you leave something behind for the next generation. Visit aljohnson.lifeinsurance.com. While you're at the website, scroll to the bottom of any page on the site, and you'll be able to join our newsletter that comes out every single Friday. It's filled with financial tips, archives of past content, and a whole list of other things that can really benefit your life. And so that's aljohnson.lifeinsurance.com. Like I said before, visit elevatingmen.com. Click on the donate link because we definitely need help pushing our mission forward. Visit our YouTube channel where you can check out our archived content. And don't forget, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Oasis Church, the Man Cave Prayer Breakfast. And so we appreciate all of you tuning in. Thank you so much for your support. Share this with your network and have the conversation with your people as well. We'll see you all next week, Monday at 8. Thanks for tuning in. Have a